what are you doing? And I told her the story that I've just told, maybe a bit more elaborate. And then Laura goes, and I said, well, Sam's buying a property in there. And Laura said, well, I guess if Sam's buying a property, that's enough due diligence. So pretty. And we settled on that property 2 years ago, and we absolutely love it.
You're listening to Property Investor Tales, stories from the front yard.
Hello, and welcome to Property Investor Tales, stories from the front yard, where I get to speak to property investors from right around Australia about their investing journey. My name is Laura Chugg, and I'm one of the coaches here at Positive Real Estate, where we help people build wealth through property. We have over 8,000 clients across Australia and New Zealand. There are some incredible stories where we want to share with you, and which hopefully make that investing journey of your own that little bit easier, and they can inspire you along the way. So my guest today is the fabulous Kylie, and today we discuss how overcoming fear of debt to go on and build a portfolio across 4 different states, why buying the house next door could be your biggest mistake, and how we overcome life's day-to-day challenges to keep moving forward to create financial security for yourself and your family. So please enjoy this conversation with Kylie. So today I have the pleasure of interviewing Kylie Johnson. Kylie and I have been working together for the last 7 years. We started in 2016. So Kylie and Ken, her husband, has been working on building some financial security with me. So today we want to delve into a little bit more about her story and what's worked and what hasn't, and how did we end up in 2023 with 4 properties across 4 different states, which is a huge shift forward from having your own home, and a huge amount of equity and untapped equity that has come a long way to building wealth for you. So welcome, Kylie. For those people who don't know me, my name is Laura Chugg, and I've been working with Positive Real Estate firstly as a client since 2011, and then I started working as a coach with PRE since 2013. So not long after that, Kylie started working with me. So welcome, Kylie.
Laura, thanks for having me.
So let's delve right in. I think let's deep dive straight away. What's the weirdest and funniest thing that'll a bit of an icebreaker for us both, Kylie, it being a podcast today? What's the funniest thing that's happened to you in your property investment journey?
Well, Laura, I think you probably remember this one, but right in the beginning, I think it was about May of 2016, 2017, something like that. We did one of the tours that PRE put on down to Melbourne. And it started off pretty badly because we were catching a plane from Newcastle, and the flight never took off because of a storm. So we had to drive home, we had to hang around there for hours, get a new flight, and we had to drive home and then fly out from Sydney at 6 o'clock the next morning, on the Friday morning. And we had to meet the guys at 8:30 or something at the airport to go on the tour. So we had about 3 hours sleep. We made it. We got on the bus at the airport in Melbourne. And here's Sam Saggers up the front, full of energy, full of beans. We were just exhausted after our, 12-hour delay of getting down to Melbourne, because we were meant to stay the night before at the airport. Anyhow, we got on the bus and we're traveling around Melbourne, and we're looking at these brilliant properties in the sort of middle ring suburbs of Melbourne. And then Sam says, we were going somewhere, and then he said, no, we're going to Collingwood. I've just had word that we can go and see this property in Collingwood. They're going to allow investors to purchase in this property. So next thing you know, we're in Collingwood and we're looking at this beautiful property in Collingwood at the plans. And at the time, Sam was telling us all the details about Collingwood being on the fringe. It's getting gentrified, and it's an old working class suburb, but and it's sitting next to suburbs like Yarraville that were worth a bomb. So anyhow, we went in and had a look at this place, and it looked great. We're new to investing, totally new to investing. Oh, we'd had one property that we were going through at the time with you, Laura, and then we really loved it. And that night we went back to the hotel, and then we said, okay, in the morning we're going back to Collingwood. So we got up, got in a taxi, went straight to Collingwood, and there was a couple of people there from PRE. Went to the sales site, had a look at the plans. There was a truckload available, and we said, yep, we're buying one. So we put down a deposit, but we hadn't done our due diligence, had we, Laura? So
what was my instruction, Kylie, before you flew off on your endeavour to catch Sam's bus tour? Was it something along the lines of, now these tours are really fabulous education, and then we'll come back and talk about strategy? Was that what we discussed, Kylie?
Laura. We've put down this deposit, and then we're walking up the main street of Collingwood, and we're sitting on this park bench going, did we just do that? I said, oh, I think I better ring Laura. So I've rung Laura, and she's like, what are you doing? And I told her the story that I've just told, maybe a bit more elaborate. And then Laura goes, and I said, well, Sam's buying a property in there. And Laura said, well, I guess if Sam's buying a property, that's enough due diligence. So pretty. And we settled on that property 2 years ago, and we absolutely love it.
Yeah. Obviously, when you got back, we did do some further due diligence, yes. But I do, in the back of my head, think if Sam's, promoting by purchasing one, it can't go all too badly, can it? No. But definitely, we needed to make sure the numbers worked and it fitted with what you were trying to achieve. And thankfully, it did, and thankfully, it's worked wonders for you. So that's exciting. And interesting, Kylie, you guys came to us, a little bit later in life, and you had come to us with a large amount of equity that was already sitting in your home, and it was sitting untapped. Tell us a little bit more about that. Why did it take you so long to step into investment?
Well, I guess it's probably like everyone, there's that bit of that scare factor. We had been doing a lot of research. There's so much information out there, so much. We've been going off to seminars, we've been going to expos, I've been reading books. I guess there wasn't a lot of podcasts around then, or I didn't listen to them back then. So we just didn't know where to go, and we did go off to a couple of other investment companies like PRE, but we just didn't find that they were the right people for us. We went to one seminar one weekend, and it was about them selling their product, and it was like selling education. And then at the end of the session, they'd say, okay, if you want to purchase this, the first 10 get $1,000 off or something like that. And people were running up the back of the room and buying these education programs. And we're like, this is all a bit weird. And then we went to another company, and they seemed okay, but then they started putting the hard sell onto us. So we never felt comfortable. And then in the end, we're like, we knew that the markets were moving, and we really, because we've been looking at this for maybe 4 or 5 years, and we really needed to do something. And then I saw, I think it we may have even had local papers or something back then. And I saw an ad from Positive Real Estate, or it was on the internet. I really can't remember. And you were doing a talk just locally. So we went down to that talk, and by the end of that night, my husband said we signed up with Laura. But I think that was about the integrity that you showed and the honesty. And it was about the connection that we actually had with you, Laura. We hadn't connected with any other people like that. And we knew that you were the right person, because you were a farm girl from Tasmania, and you were talking about your experiences and your investments with your family and what have you. And we just, it was a gut feeling, and we just felt that it was right. So we joined up that night. The next day we were like, as you remember, we were a bit apprehensive, and we had our first meeting with you. And so we had that meeting, and I took my lists of concerns and we discussed it. And then after that, you know, I felt quite comfortable. I mean, you're spending a lot of money, so it's got to be right. And I guess the rest is history. I'm sitting here talking to you now. So
yeah. And I think for people too, Kylie, you know, there's not a lack of information out there, but it's really understanding what is the information that's right for you, for your personal circumstances, the timeframes that you have around the goals that you have set. And I think that's the biggest challenge for most people is, you know, what applies to them and how to get started. So, you know, we work with a lot of clients that have been sitting on their little home that is gradually over time gone up, and they've got, you know, little debt on it. But that's only an investment for you, obviously, if you're prepared to move out, rent it out, or if you're prepared to sell it. But for you and your husband, you have chosen that you want to stay in that home. It's in a fantastic location. You know, the facilities around offer you the type of lifestyle that you want to have long term. So you want, you know, you were looking to stay there. So that meant that to create some financial security, you needed to look outside of selling your own home to move forward. What were the type of challenges, I guess, that you faced emotionally, you know, financially, to be able to take that next step? Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, I think the main one is just getting your head around about having another massive mortgage. Like we'd worked really hard to get our mortgage where it was on our own home, and then just the idea of going into this massive debt is sort of scary. It's scary for anyone when you buy your first home. That's scary, and it's like all the what ifs, because it's a big unknown. And you know, what if I don't rent the place out? What if I don't get enough rent from the property to pay off the mortgage? And it's just a total unknown. And you just have to take that leap of faith, and you just need to have the trust. And it wasn't like I was doing it on my own, because I was working with you, Laura, and Shane at the time to help find us a property. And then just with your network, you're able to help us build a team around us. And that team that we've built around us, whether it's like property managers, solicitors, accountants, mortgage brokers, we still use those people in that team today. So it's about building that network and feeling comfortable with those people, feeling comfortable with you and getting the advice. And if you weren't sure of the answer, you'd always find it, go and speak to Jason or Sam. And I just have that confidence with the acquisition team that you've got. There's just your team, PRE team, are doing the research that there's no way we could do that research. If it was to me, and I hadn't gone to you, we were looking at buying locally. And, so we could go and keep an eye on the property. We're looking at buying an old property and renovating it, like working full time. When we were going to ever do that? I've got a friend who bought a house 2 years ago in the middle of COVID, and I was speaking to him yesterday, and he still hasn't rented it out because he's been renovating it. So that's 2 years worth of rent that he's missed out on.
Not to mention, you've got to, look at that, the holding costs of that property, on top of, there's no sort of efficiency there because we're not getting a rental income. So it's difficult to utilise the costs of holding that property effectively until you've got a rental income. So, so many people think they're renovators. I don't know whether I've ever shared the story with you. I dabbled in a little bit of renovating myself when I looked at my own home, and thankfully I didn't have to pick up a paintbrush, but I always tell the story of feeling like I was clambering over piles of rubbish to get to my bed at night whilst the renovating was happening around me. I think, is a big reason why, it's really important to understand the type of strategy that's going to work for you. And if you don't have a huge amount of tradespeople around you, or if you don't have, you're not willing to pick up a paintbrush and do it yourself, or you haven't got the time to put into that type of thing yourself, you're going to run into challenges. You also mentioned you had a friend, your next door neighbour did a bit of investing in their own area. What happened there?
My neighbour across the road purchased the house next door and rented it out, thinking that it was a good investment. You keep an eye on it, self-managed it, didn't have a property manager, and also didn't have any insurance, landlord insurance. And to this day, I do not understand why. The landlord insurance costs you about $300-400 a year, and it's tax deductible. So anyhow, he's rented out the house. There'd been several tenants through, but the last tenant he had in there, it turned into a drug lab. And he wasn't aware because he was living next door, but we were seeing these people coming and going and doing deals, and I was here getting woken up at night with cars going up and down the driveway. So we had to go and tell him, and then he approached his tenants, and they stopped paying rent. He had to go to the tribunal to get them out of his property. That took about 6 months. He was 6 months out of rent, and I think he was between $10,000 and $20,000 out of cash that they owed him, and no landlord insurance, so he wasn't able to pick that up. And I actually went into the house after he finally got them out, and it was just absolutely trashed. And he was living next door thinking he could manage that property, and he wasn't. So that just gives, if you think you want to buy something nearby so you can keep an eye on it, then it really, not everybody ends up with some drug lords in their house, but it's possible.
So you mentioned many good lessons just in there, Kylie. Obviously, so far our conversation, I think we've covered quite a few. Starting with buying in the right location, so that you can confidently say your tenant is, you're always going to have a tenant, you're always going to have a rental cash flow, because what tends to happen with people is, things change, and the biggest reason people sell is usually life circumstances, or they don't have enough cash flow to hold the property. So making sure you've got properties that are in the right locations, that we can be very secure in expectation around rents, is really important. You also talked about in that, Kylie, having the right insurances in place to protect yourself when things go wrong, because property investing is not always a fabulous experience. We've talk about this a lot in our coaching sessions, that we have good times and we have tough times, and it's when we can ride out these tough times where real wealth is created. And obviously, you know, but it's also about mitigating these challenges people face as well. Part of that is having the right insurances in place to protect yourself from, you know, a tenant that doesn't do the right thing. But even before you have the wrong tenancy is managing it yourself. You know, one of the lessons that I always talk to people about, if I hear a story about a tenant gone wild, or a cat, you know, someone's pet, you know, destroying a property, or, you know, all of that stuff, it happens when most of the time it happens when you self-manage. And a lot of these types of challenges for property investors can be avoided simply by making sure you've got the right protection in place. Either you've got a fantastic property manager that knows their stuff, that qualifies their tenants, that helps you really manage your property to get the right results.
Yeah.
So anything else, you know, in your experience that you've sort of taken out of working through property? What types of lessons would you share other than what I've mentioned?
Okay, the other thing that a lot of people aren't aware of is the depreciation that you get on a new property, and getting a depreciation schedule. And you know, at the end of the year, we get quite a nice little return from the tax man. So, and a lot of that is because we've bought new properties and we get that depreciation on the properties. And an example of that is our niece. She bought a property up Newcastle Way, and she's a solicitor, not in the real estate field, but she's a solicitor, and she wasn't aware of the depreciation. And I was telling her one time when we met up, and then the next time I saw her, she said, "Oh, thank you so much about telling me about the depreciation schedule. I've got that set up, and now we're getting, you know, some really good benefits on our tax return." So that's another little thing that if you're doing it on your own, you may not know about that. If your accountant's not up on property investing, that's another thing. I mentioned the accountant before, but we use an accountant that was recommended by you, and he's brilliant. He's a property investor, so he knows what to do for property investors. So it's also about you know, surrounding yourself with like-minded people.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah,
absolutely, makes the world of difference. I say it's, you know, you don't know what you don't know until it hits you in the face.
Yeah.
And you know, you go about blissfully, and I'm sure your niece, you know, if she hadn't had that conversation, would be quite comfortable with what she's doing and doesn't understand the implications to the overall performance or cash flow of her portfolio, which then obviously impacts the ability to keep moving forward to buy the next investment. So Kylie, you know, we've been working together now for 7 years. You know, I've been part of the PRE network since 2011. Absolutely, it's having a team of people, experienced people that aren't afraid to share their experiences with you to help you overcome the pitfalls or the traps of property investing that most people make the mistake of doing, and then end up in a position of not being able to hold the portfolio over the time that they need to get the results that they need. What do you tell your family and friends about your decisions to invest?
That's a good question, Laura, because, you know, everybody's got an opinion, and the media sort of doesn't tell the true story about property investing. So we actually pick the people that we tell that we've invested, because I don't know, that some people just think, oh, geez, you must be loaded. But I'm very quick to turn around and say, hey, we've got this massive mortgage as well. I'm comfortable with having that mortgage. That was something that I learned in the beginning. But to understand, if we've got 4 properties, we don't own them outright. So people sort of get a bit funny. I'll tell them that. But really, my family know that we don't discuss it that often. They don't understand it. And I try and give them advice and to, maybe buy an investment property, and that doesn't happen. They can see, like my brother said to me recently, he said, oh, I wish I'd done something before, but, because he can see that we're sort of starting to reap the rewards. And, but yeah, I talked to one girlfriend because she actually invests in property through another group. And when she told me she was investing, I got straight on the phone. I said, who are you doing this with? And she said, I don't know who it's with, but I said, well, at least it's a group. You're not just doing it off your own back. But I can see I don't know if she listens to this podcast, she might hear me say that I think that she probably didn't buy in the best areas compared to the advice that we've received from PRE where we bought our properties. But that's another conversation. But no, generally we don't discuss it.
And Kylie, you mentioned your brother had expressed his interest, but hasn't taken a step forward yet. What do you think is holding him back?
I think that at the moment, he's just changed states of where he's living. So he's just purchased a new home up there for the family to live in. And so he's sort of just concentrating on that. But I think it's just circumstance perhaps holding him back at the moment. Yeah.
And I guess that's probably one of my biggest lessons that I try and teach people is there's never a perfect time to get started with property investing. Everyone waits for this perfect moment when life is perfect, finances are perfect, kids are sorted. But as I progress through the stages of life, I realize life is rarely perfect. And I think if I had waited for my perfect moment to start investing, I wouldn't have got there.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, we all hit times in our lives that are difficult or are focused on, buying a new house or putting the children through school or starting your children through university, or, braces come along, or we need to buy a new car, or we want a holiday. This is kind of called life, I guess, is the best way of describing it. Sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's great, sometimes it really isn't. And I think, it's in those moments, what would you see? And I know that we've talked a little bit about this because we've both had times in our lives that haven't been, a bundle of roses. What would you say to people that are using that as their story, as their reason for not creating the life that they choose?
Yeah, thanks, Laura. As you mentioned, we sort of both went through a very hard stage in our lives around the same time. And I think we were in the throes of purchasing our second property. And, I was prepared to give up. I'm like, I don't have the energy. But with your support, you were able to get me through it and across the line. And because, I'm not going to say that it's an easy process buying a property, but once you get through that first one and the second one, because the legal documents you've got to go through, securing the loans, the amount of paperwork you've got to read. I mean, but that's something that you just do for about a month, and then you set up, you sign those documents, and you're like, oh my God, I'm signing my life away here. But I just felt like I couldn't really concentrate on everything at the time, but it was with the support of you that got me through that time. So, you know, everybody has times in their life where it's not that good. And as you say, there's never a perfect moment, because we don't lead perfect lives. And if you find that person out there who does, then let me know. So yeah, you just got to bite the bullet. Like the night we signed up with you, it had taken it a few years. We were getting older. We wanted to plan for our retirement, and we knew we had to get on with it. So you've just got to bite the bullet. It's never going to be the perfect time, never. So just do it. First one's the hardest.
And I think
mindset.
I think the benefit of having a team or having a coach around you is having that insight to see the big picture, because often in our lives when we're going through a situation, we're really centered on whatever it is that's taking our concentration. But when you have a team around you that can see the big picture and keep your big goals in mind, it's only about following through with the step-by-step process that's required. And to do that, often all we need is a bit of nurturing, a bit of support, a bit of realignment in our goals. I don't know, I think our sounds got a bit chaotic, so hopefully that won't come through on the recording, but we'll keep going. So I think it's always about recentering, you know, having a coach or a mentor in your life is there to support you through the good times, but most importantly, when you're challenged. You know, when, you know, for people who are trying to get to a new level, there is sacrifice, whether it be time commitment, whether it be financially commitment. There's a sacrifice, and for those people, it doesn't matter what kind of goal you have in life. If you want to get to the next level, there's a certain amount of sacrificing. And sometimes in life, we need a little bit more support to make those sacrifices. And I think that's the benefit that you gain through having a support network around you to achieve the outcome that you're looking for.
That's right, yeah.
So tell me, Kylie, what would you say to those people watching the video right now and, you know, similar situation, they've been thinking about investing for some time now? What would you say to those people that have been really fearful about making the wrong decision or making a mistake or not quite getting it right? What would you say to those people right now?
Oh, really, Laura, I would just say, just do it. As you know, last week I had a meeting with you, which is a service that you provide. And I said to you, thank you so much, Laura. If it wasn't for you and meeting you 7 years ago, we would not be in the place where we're at now, you know, planning our retirement. And that's when you said, oh, do you want to do a podcast? So I agreed, and here I am. But no, my advice is, look, you've just got to do it. And I keep talking about the team and the support. The other thing that I didn't mention is the education that you get with PRE. You get a nice big folder to work through with all the steps. You get advice on how to, on your strategy, your planning, your financial advice. And the other great thing you do, pre-COVID, we used to meet up once a month and we'd do a mentoring session, and you'd have somebody in that would, you know, very knowledgeable. But now it's gone online, and everybody in Australia can see it, and I think New Zealand, can't they? And you have some wonderful people on there. Like I watched on Monday night, you had Dr. Wilson, Andrew Wilson.
Dr. Andrew Wilson.
And he's fabulous. Like I see him on the news quite often, and he's just a straight shooter. And the information that he gives you, and then Sam will get on, and like I find Sam Saggers the most entertaining man. He's just so intelligent. I'm not buttering up Sam, but no, he's just got this amazing foresight. I listen to a lot of his podcasts, and he's just got this foresight about the property market like no other people have. And to have him on your team, I think it's really a great asset. I mean, him and Jason built the business up together, but he's just, and just the way he thinks about things. So it's all those extra benefits that you get by joining and ongoing. Like we meet up with you, say every 6 months to make sure that we're on track. And if I need to, I can just send you a text message, give you a call, send you an email. I mean, I was asking you some advice even this morning about one of our properties. So we can always get that advice. So there's not much more I can say. Like, I think PRE is a great organisation, and Laura is the best coach. And we certainly wouldn't be where we are today. We might have bought.
I should put a disclaimer right now that there was no money exchanged for this, for this podcast. That you're too kind, and I really appreciate it. But having come from as a client, I know, the confidence that you gain by working with such a huge team. And the benefit for our clients is there's no one in our organisation that isn't able to be reached out to. Sam and Jason and all the team are such a support for all of our clients. So if I'm not there, if people, I don't have all the answers, there's other people that can sort of support you through, which I think is the real benefit to having a mentor or a coach, is being there no matter what happens. And sometimes it's all those little 1%ers that you come across as an investor, that just having that extra bit of experience to make the right decision can be the difference between a $50 or $100 rent increase, which is what we were sort of discussing today. And that wouldn't have come about if we hadn't bought in the right location, where, and the right type of asset that, attracts that type of exciting, growth opportunities. So, it's fantastic to see you guys. I still remember sitting in your first session. You were, we sat down straight after the information when we did the night, and I can remember your husband, being a little bit of, a bit, I don't know whether I'm going to do this, but absolutely by the end of it, we certainly, you took action. And so congratulations to you, because that's half the battle. Is yes, we can go out and build enough knowledge and education, and you did that about and you found a lot of what you didn't want in the first 4 or 5 years. But when you did find someone you could connect with, when you did find an organisation that did follow the values of what's important to you, you're an action taker. Because there's lots of people who have what I call paralysis analysis, or analysis paralysis. And you've got to make sure you take action as well as getting information. So congratulations. It was amazing to sit with you the other day and sort of say to you, well, come on, what's the next few years look like? What choices would you like? Because you've done the hard work, and you're really now got more choices in life. So that's amazing.
We're at the third stage of the plan.
Absolutely. Starting to enjoy it, which is wonderful. Congratulations, Kylie, and thank you so much for joining me on the podcast this evening. Is there anything else that you'd like to share before we finish off? Is there any last minute tids and bits that you'd like to share?
The only thing that I probably think I didn't touch on was about self-managed super, but that may be a conversation for another day. And you and the team were able to coach us through buying property in our self-managed super and setting up our self-managed super as well. So it wasn't just buying property in our personal names.
Yeah, it was fantastic when you made the decision to set up a self-managed super fund and obviously take control of that pool, and then obviously use property as a vehicle within inside of your super as well. So that's had some huge results for you as well, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
So definitely, I think it's exciting to see where your position has become, and the next few years, watch out. I think we'll.
Harvest, here we come.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Kylie. Take care.
Well, see ya. Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening to Property Investor Tales. Remember to subscribe so you get notified every time a new episode drops. As you can guess, I love hearing people's property investor tales. So if you'd like to share yours, then please get in touch with me via email at propertyinvestortales@positivementor.com.au. We would also love your feedback, and I would appreciate a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Remember, you can watch all of these podcasts over on YouTube at Positive Mentor or at positivementor.com.au. Until then, take care, happy investing, and bye for now.